Hello and welcome back to another episode of Escaping Kerbin. It's been a little bit. We've focused on KSP POV a lot, but now it's time to turn our attention back to this one. If you're not familiar, this is the series in which we aim to put a Kerbal on the surface of another planet, either Eve or Duna, or potentially Jewel. If you notice in the background, we have atmosphere to our planet, and that is because we now have Blackrack's volumetric clouds as well as Parallax 2.0 installed, so we are going to get a lot prettier with our KSP. So today I wanted to just do a couple missions to kind of showcase the new mods. I ended up having some footage failure, so I reloaded back to the save that I have, but I built this whole ship in that, and so I'm sorry for not including the build of this. But this ship is designed to carry 5 tourists, because we have 2 contracts, and both of them are the same ones to ferry tourists above the desert on a suborbital flight. So that is what this beast is doing. And I apologize because for some reason the audio didn't record in this footage. Like I said, been having some problems with my recording software. But yeah, so there is no audio for this episode, and I apologize for that. No rocket sound audio. But yeah, so we lift off in third person, since this is the regular form. And as you see over there, you can start to see the rays of light pouring through and some of the rain. And as you see, the cloud cover above us creates an actual barrier. I wish that we had a cloud that we could have flown through, but our launch didn't permit that. But later you will see much more interaction with the clouds. This episode is going to be a 2-parter. First part, we're going to be working on completing these tourist contracts, and then the second part, we're going to do a little bit more exploring, because after all, that is the heart of this series, is exploration. Yeah, just look at that. Look how beautiful that is. The mods will be, how you can get these mods will be listed in the description below, as well as the total mod list for the series. So we go ahead and stage off our side boosters, and I'm going to be leaving this basically unedited the whole way. We're just going to do the whole contract, do the whole flight, because we got some time to work with. As you can see, this isn't as long of an episode as we typically do, but that's because we had already recorded it, and so since we lost that footage when I went to record it again, I was just a little bit more, to the point. Made sure to get everything done by the numbers, and so not a lot of wasted time between parts of this episode. But let me tell you, this episode took quite a long time to film, but we'll get into that later, and you'll see why. So yep, so now we get ourselves up to about 90 kilometers for our apoapsis, and we just kind of drift our way up there. Pretty standard for a launch. And now we don't have to keep these tourists in orbit for any particular length of time, so we can just handle this. We don't have to time warp around, do several orbits at once. So we're just going to do that. And like I said before, the goal is to fly over the desert, still in space, but on a suborbital flight, meaning that we are in a collision trajectory with the planet. So yeah, we're just going to turn this little lug over, and we're going to get ready to circularize. Beautiful view of the planet underneath us. I might be saying that a little bit a few times in this episode, and that's just because I'm just blown away at how the game looks right now. Since we didn't need to worry about fuel efficiency, we went and used a lifter engine to do our circularization burn, just to, give us that oomph, that thrust to weight ratio that means that we don't have to burn for very long. As you can see, I have a ton of contracts because I upgraded the mission control, so now I can accept an unlimited number. So I'm hoarding contracts a little bit, but we're getting them done. So I go ahead and use trajectories to try to aim myself to land close to the KSC while still achieving our goal of the suborbital flight. I've done this once before. I learned how to do this correctly is because I tried to land in the desert once before, and I thought that would take care of it, and it turned out that that's not what the contract states. So when I saw that this contract was basically the same kind of thing, I kind of had an idea of what I needed to do. So we're just gonna go ahead and come to the dark side of the planet. We adjust our throttle limiter, and then we time warp our way to our maneuver. Careful not to overshoot because we don't have a probe core on this, so we don't have access to remote text flight computer. So we got to do all these burns by hand, the old-fashioned way. All right, so now we're on a suborbital flight, but we should still be above the 85 kilometers for the contract, or maybe it's 70 kilometers. Either way, we have to be above a certain height, and we are set to be that by the time we reach the Great Deserts. So we jettison our lower stage, we turn to the side, we turn anti-normal or normal, either way, and then we jettison it off, and then we point ourselves retrograde once again to get ready for re-entry. We've got a large enough heat shield that we don't have to worry about anything. We also have a couple radiators on here, so we should be pretty fine. But let me tell you, if we end up failing this mission and killing 5 tourists, I don't know what's going to happen to our agency. So below you see the cloud cover. It's actually obscuring a large part of the planet. Used to be you could spot every little continent underneath you, but now it's more of a mystery, but it's also a little bit more realistic that way. One thing I'm excited for that was mentioned, I believe, I'm not entirely certain about this, but I believe the heat atmospheric reentry might be a part of the new updated Eve as well. So I'm just looking forward to this. I have to give a lot of credit. I am 100% happy with this mod that Blackrack put out. I highly recommend it. I think it makes for a very fun gameplay, and you'll see some more of what it can do a little bit later in this episode. It also adds atmospheric volumetric clouds to Jewel, as well as Duna and Eve, and all the planets that have atmosphere, basically. Supposedly, on Duna there's dust storms, and I have yet to experience that because, of course, we've yet to leave the system. If we had left the system, then we would have succeeded in our goal. But look at this. As we get ready to fall through the atmosphere, you'll get to see how the clouds affect the gameplay. We just kind of puncture these fluffy little wisps, and we come through, and it's storming. It's gorgeous. I was so excited when I saw that. I thought it was just absolutely beautiful. And then we go and we take a peek out through the tourist viewing window down there. and the rain and the thunder. That's one of the things I'm sad about, is the audio didn't come through, because there was a lot of thunders going on, thunder cracks going on while we were bringing this down. But all in all, it's coming down safely. It seems like our tourists are going to be well and alive, and when they get brought back, and we will make quite a bit of money for our efforts. There we go. Splashdown successful. And we come back to the KSC to find that it's storming here as well. It's actually raining a lot harder over here now. So then we're going to take this rain and give ourselves a challenge. We're going to do some exploring. Oh, yep, we got those contracts filled. That's what I was looking at. We're going to jump here into the spaceplane hangar and design ourselves an aircraft. For science, of course. We are going to take another shot at flying to one of the poles. This time we're going to go for the North Pole. A couple episodes back, we tried to make it to the South Pole and we ran out of fuel. So we're going to try to pack on a little extra fuel this time and see if we can make it. So I go ahead and just set up the experiments and set them to their action groups, so that way we can just run them by the press of a button. I go ahead and throw some life support in there, just in case it's an extra long journey. And then I go and find the fuel tanks, and I just tack them on there. But then I realize I got some science to spend. Why not treat ourselves and get ourselves a little bit better of an aircraft by unlocking some better pieces. We only unlock the one node, but we do look at the supersonic flight science node, and we might get there, especially now that the atmosphere is a lot more fun to fly around in. And oh boy, is it fun. I'm normally not a planes person in KSP, but I think I might have to reconsider that. I'd like to know if it has any kind of interaction with FAR, Ferrum Aerospace Research. I'd like to know if the rain had any kind of effect on your actual aerodynamics. So here we go with the swept wings, but we tilt them so they're a little bit more straight, not swept back as much. And then we also tilt them up a little bit, and this should help us lift off the runway. I go ahead and I do a test flight of it just to make sure that it can indeed get off the runway. I decided not to include it here. And our pilot today is Kazu Kerman. In fact, she is our only pilot. We have 5 engineers, 3 scientists, and 1 pilot. So we better get this right. So the rain kind of pelts us as we fly, or we speed forward through it. And careful not to smack our engine on the runway as we lift up, and we easily climb up into the atmosphere. This actually ends up becoming a fairly stable plane. It does very well as far as keeping itself in the air. Doesn't try to stall out very often like some of my previous designs have done. And you can't always see the rain, but when you can, it adds a level of realism that it's just unparalleled. You see a little lightning off to the side. And then a little bit again in front. And as you see here, this is what I was talking about with the rocket, as I was hoping that we could fly through the clouds and just see this glorious blue sunlit sky. So now I just tilt myself so that way I can be more north. I went ahead and used the compass on the interior view mode, also to give myself kind of an idea of what it would look like in our KSP POV, which don't worry, these mods are going to be in there too. We actually have one episode already recorded with the new mods, Parallax 2.0 with collision on the scatterer. For those who may not know, Parallax had not too long ago, I guess it's a little bit longer now, but they made it so not only are the moons and planets more populated with scatter, such as like grass and trees and rocks and things like that, but you have the ability of turning on a collision mode for it. So every rock will, rather than a rover driving straight on through it, it will collide with the rover and cause the rover to either flip or spin or break. So it's going to add another level of challenge to us. Having Parallax was one of the reasons why KSP POV and Season 1 ended a little early, because we ended up messing up our save file with it. But I have backed up things, and I have a better understanding of how these mods work and how to set it up correctly. And so I've been doing a couple test episodes, and everything seems to be working out great. So I'm excited. I am so excited to continue on. So jumping back into the plane, I will be dipping in and out of the clouds back and forth because I just enjoy it so much. I enjoy the way that there's now levels to the atmosphere. There's also like better indications of your speed, because you can actually see the stuff flying past you, below you, as opposed to if it was just empty sky. And you see the ground, yes, but it's not quite the same. So not only am I doing 4 times physics warp, but I'm also speeding up the footage by about 1,000%, just to make things a little bit more bearable. I was sitting here doing this mission for about the better part of half an hour, maybe 35 minutes it took, but we got through it. So I'm using Waypoint Manager to plot the spot on the map that I'm heading for, and you can see it's that little orange square. We don't need to head directly for it, we just need to get a general idea of how far away it is, which is why we plotted it into the waypoint. As you can see up top below my altimeter, it shows us how far away we are and the time that it will take to get there. So I felt we were going a little high, and I keep thinking that we're closer than we are, so I'm like, oh well, it's time to lower our altitude because we want to come in for a landing. But then I realized, no, we are still nowhere near it. But we did reach the frigid ocean of Kerbin. We're flying over some tundra right now. Just go ahead and ascend once more, and then dip right back down. It's just so much fun flying an airplane with this new feature. Let me go ahead and time warp again, or physics warp I should say. And the craft starts to wobble a little bit, and before I know it, our engine is gone. Yep, just like that. No more engine. So our plane becomes a glider, and I go ahead and run some experiments real fast because I know that we're over a different biome, but for some reason only a few experiments actually yielded any science. But I can see the ice shelf ahead of us, and we have good forward momentum, and we have a decent amount of altitude that we can just glide our way to it. It is a very large ice shelf, an ice wall, if you will. So we just come down easily, steadily, We know that we've got plenty of space ahead of us, and it's very flat. However, we are not at the poles. We did not make it to the poles once again. We ended short, but we had plenty of fuel. We had way more than enough fuel. So we know that this plane can make it. We just got to be judicious with our physics warping, because it will mess you up. And so, speaking of messing you up, I'm going about 35 to 40 meters per second when I land, and when I slam on the brakes, it starts to tilt me hard. I do some science, but the computer freezes up a little bit, and that tells me only one thing: that wing is gone. And this Kerbal has a lot to think about in these next few moments. As any good Kerbal does, she does her science though. And she's breaking apart and bouncing across the ground. She makes sure to give Werner what he needs. And just like that, she comes to a stop. Alive and well. We managed to keep this Kerbal alive, even through crash landing. She gets recovered and comes back a hero. So we got some science from that. Not as much as we were hoping for, but we'd like to upgrade the R&D building, but that's going to have to be in the next episode after a couple more contracts. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving me a like. I hope you're looking forward to some more Escaping Kerbin, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.